Consideration of a Citizens Advisory Board for the Library Collection Development. And Commissioner Ballard, this is your item.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Baugh. I thought I would have the most controversial item today. I may or may not. So I've seen some people holding up books for symbolic purpose today, like The Art of War, which I think is kind of cute and fun. I wish I had a copy of Much Ado About Nothing, because I think that that's kind of what we're dealing with here. So what I'm proposing today is a Collection Development Advisory Board. As named, that is an advisory board made up of a cross-section of members of the community. So there's been some confusion, maybe some deliberate fear-mongering. My colleagues and I have been referred to as mullahs, fascists, literally Hitler, book banners, and lots of other incendiary terms, which you guys are free to do because of freedom of speech, freedom of expression. But refraining from using that kind of rhetoric does increase the chances that your comments will be taken seriously. Believe it or not, which you probably wouldn't if you get your information from online newspapers and social media warriors, I'm well versed in the First Amendment. I believe very strongly in freedom of speech. Public libraries have the responsibility to present all points of view, even if I, as an elected official, any other elected official, or an advisory board finds those views personally important. So I've also received some questions as to why the current library board under Ordinance 2-9-55 will not suffice as a collection development advisory board, and that's for a couple of reasons. The current board was designed in the 70s. Its only requirement for members is that they live within prescribed geographic boundaries within the county. I'd like to see a larger collection development board with members that serve certain roles in the county. And if people are completely opposed to a second board, we can fully restructure and expand our current board to meet those needs, but that could result in a loss of some of the current appointments. So our county's current collection development policy, which was adopted in, I believe, October of 22, provides that recommendations from library customers are accepted and that the library creates its collection in partnership with the citizens of Manatee County, seeking input and recommendations on the content that should be acquired. The creation of a collection development advisory board is in line with those stated goals, and it democratizes the process of material acquisition and formalizes the library's stated goal in partnering with the community for input on our collections. I'm proposing a board made up of 15 people from around the county. I am flexible on that number, but just to give you an idea of what I'd like to see, not something geographically defined like the current board. I'd like to see 2 parents of young children, ages 0 to 5, 2 parents of school-age children, age 6 to 18, 2 homeschooling parents with kids any age, 4 community members with no other extra requirement, 2 teachers, 1 library professional who could be a retiree, and 2 retirees. The board would have no veto power over professional acquisitions of library staff. Ms. Parrott or an appointee would be obviously a part of that board and the de facto head of that board. So the board also would not have power to remove materials that are already within libraries. The board would work with the library's acquisition staff and review items to be purchased. If the board overwhelmingly doesn't agree with purchase of certain items, the hope is that librarians take that into consideration, but in accordance with free speech principles, the ultimate decision will lie with library staff. So I'd like to move to a model of 10 to 15% patron-driven acquisition for our libraries. So we already have in place a model where patrons can go onto the website and say, hey, I'd like to see this certain book purchased. What I'd like to do is formalize that and expand it. So board members would be tasked as community liaisons, expected to come to meetings with acquisition suggestions. The board as a whole could vote on those suggestions. I think we could even have a model where the advisory board suggestions could be opened to the public for an online vote, and those with a certain threshold of votes would be acquired by the library system. I've also had some people suggest that just the current interlibrary loan program could solve this issue, and I do think that partially it could, especially for people who are really sophisticated and regular users of the library. But for people who don't have a lot of time or who don't have the knowledge of ILL, I just don't think that that's I don't think that's the end to the problem. I think that a lot of library users rely on what's available at the time that they need it, or they don't know exactly what they're looking for. And there's joy in kind of stumbling upon something as they come into the library. I know that's my experience. So again, I hope that with this proposal, people understand a little bit more of what is actually being proposed versus the kind of fear-mongering that we've seen online. And I hope that this is a proposal that will have broad community support, because I really do think that it is democratizing our libraries a little bit and just providing for a little bit more community input for what is really a small portion of the books in our library, like I said, about 10 to 15%. Since I've already got everyone here who cares deeply about this issue, I've got people riled up, and I don't think it's fair to split it into another meeting. I've got two other proposals that I would like to bring up. I'd like to see a parental consent form for children under 16 who want to rent from young adult fiction, human sexuality, sexual techniques, sexual orientation, and sexual hygiene sections at the library. Either a parent should be present with the child at the time of rental, or the parent should sign a consent form affirmatively allowing their child to access and rent those materials with the subjects listed and not just Dewey Decimal numbers, right?
That's me right now.
And the second thing that I would like to see is I'd like to request genre labels on our kids' books. I'd like to see genre labels on LGBTQ labeled content, human sexuality, and coming of age. We already have genre labels for many types of books: Christian, holiday books, inspirational books. However, if people find the idea of adding genre labels only to LGBTQ and coming of age books stigmatizing, I'm not opposed to finding those genre labels for all kids' books. So adventure, mystery, science fiction, historical fiction, etc. So those are my three proposals. There you go.
Okay.
This board could effectively take a majority of that board, which does seemingly the same thing. So how is it different?
Sure. So like I said, I think that the biggest difference is that it is solely for collection development. So there are no other responsibilities involved. And additionally, it's not geographically defined. It is defined by role in the community. So if you want to restructure the current board to meet those guidelines, we could do that instead.
I don't.
Commissioner, respectfully, I never said anything about banning or removing
I didn't say
any
you did. I
book.
said this board did. The collective board did discuss it. Yes, it was brought up in the work session.
It's not creating a four-tiered system. So there would not be oversight of of the smaller board over the larger board. It's a separate board, and if you don't like it, don't vote for it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Ballard literally put forward that she was open to other ideas. I think that there's just no question, though, that nationally around the United States and then locally in our libraries, there is an issue. We can pretend like there's not one, but there is, and the problem it comes to us, and the goal is for it to come to our children when we are either not directly right there with them, et cetera. So I think putting extra parameters on this, and talk about an argument that's never been made, to say, well, I want to read what I want to read. Nobody's telling anybody in the county, any adult, they can't read whatever they want to read. Nobody's saying they can't read any book they want to read. We're talking about additional parameters before tax money is spent on books. That seems like That's part of what we're doing. And then the other thing is additional systems so that books can be classified so that if children have access to it, you can be sure as a parent you're okay with your child having access to that. This has been done for decades when it comes to movies. And, there's G-rated movies, there's PG, PG-13, R, and then there's X-rated movies. And so everyone knows when, if their kid asks to go to a particular movie, you can look at the topic under that it covers and what the rating is and decide if they can go with you, without you, et cetera. You can make a decision as the parent, and there's just no good reason why we shouldn't put some of those things in place. So I love the arguments. Nobody's trying to ban Catcher in the Rye. Nobody's trying to ban Huckleberry Finn. I mean, you go on and on. We can make this huge list of things we're not doing. Nobody's trying to ban the Bible. All this silly stuff, the books that are the origin for Ask Jeeves. Nobody's trying to ban these things. What we are trying to do is to make it a little bit easier when you've got thousands and thousands of books in one place, and every parent can't personally know the person that's putting together those collections and those displays. We're trying to make it easier on the parents to be sure that they are okay with what their child is seeing. Nothing wrong or controversial about that. It's just making up an argument to argue with it at all. It shouldn't be a big deal. G-rated movies, not a big deal. PG, not a big deal. This is common sense. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
The board that is in place currently could act as a collection development advisory board. However, as I stated, those people are chosen specifically on geographic location. I would like to see a more diverse board that pulls in different people based on their role within the county versus just their bare geographic location.
Okay.
Commissioner
So-
Ballard, do you want to interact?
I'd like to dialogue, yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I did mention that I'm fine with restructuring the current board to.
I know, that was my that's.
So
I'm
so
agreeing
if
with that.
somebody wants to move to do it that way, I'm okay with that. I do think that part of my goal in getting a really diverse cross-section of the community is taken away with that, but that it is what it is. The thing about genre labels is, again, we currently have genre labels on about a quarter of our kids' books. If you go into the library, we have genre labels on those books. Where do you find the genre labels? Where do you find them? You find them on the library website. When you go and you click on a book in the card catalog, and then it has this little blurb about what the book is about, and then below that, it has a genre label.
Okay, that leads me to my question then. You're saying we already have what you're asking us to put on, so clearly what
On
you're
the
trying to put
website.
on is above and beyond what we already have. You're claiming we already have this, so what's the
Correct.
motion?
So the motion is to put a paper label on the outside of children's books with the genre label. So,
Upon the genre label that's already on the book today.
on the website, yes.
Okay.
Because guess what? Moms who are at the library with their kids, they're not going into the card catalog and looking up every book. They're pulling books from the shelves. Their kids are over there pulling books from the shelves. And they don't have the time to go on the card catalog and look at every single one. So it's a paper genre label, which, as I said, are already on probably a quarter of kids' books already.
Commissioner Satcher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Maybe just, I have young children right now, and they're growing fast, but so maybe I'm just paying more attention to the news on these topics. But this is not somebody looking for a fight. Like, the fight has come to us. When the governor said we are
Quiet.
not going to have teachers expose 5-year-olds to sexualized content behind their parents' back, and people literally go online, make a video of themselves saying, with this horrible law.
Excuse me, can you usher these people out, please? We're not going to have the meeting disrupted.
I didn't say a word. She didn't say a word. No, no.
Which one was it, Jess?
The one right next to the pillar.
I will sue someone you throw me out of here.
I'm going to go to Sarasota County School Board to fight Bridges.
We've talked about this before. You're not going to be able to disrupt our meetings.
Like you people are
No.
totally.
Go ahead. You need to go ahead and leave. Thank you.
And the strange thing
Commissioner
is,
Satcher, go ahead, sir.
thank you, Madam Chair. I mean, the strange thing is they're going to get their 3 minutes. But the governor came down and said, we're not going to do woke indoctrination, putting it on children behind parents' back. And we literally had teachers, kindergarten teachers, go online, make videos of themselves saying, I can't abide by this horrible rule. I'm going to quit and never teach. And I'm thinking, so the reason you're teaching is because you want that opportunity. If you don't have the opportunity to indoctrinate a child behind the parent's back, then you don't want to teach. So the fight came to the parents, and the fight is coming to our children, and we need to set up reasonable safeguards. How could we be more reasonable than this? To not say anybody can't read anything, not even saying somebody can't check something out, but to say that we need more safeguards on what we're buying with our taxpayer money, and we need it to be easier for parents to see what the topic of things are that are in the library. The sad truth is, people with an agenda. They're pushing a viewpoint, and they're writing books, they're targeting children in the way they write the book and the way they do the illustrations on purpose to get them past and what an average parent would see or think when they look at that book. And that's strange that people are doing that. I don't understand it, but we're naive if we don't think it's happening. It's happening all around us, and to give parents an extra layer or 2 or 5 to keep that from happening seems very reasonable to me. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right.
Wow.
I'm just saying.
Deanna Brinkley, Manatee County. It's been a long day. The eyes are glazed, but we'll continue. I'm glad to see that there are so many parents here, but these are the parents that do pay attention to what their kids are reading and what is going on. But that's not the parents that we're talking about, and those aren't the kids we're talking about. And I can't believe that in this day and age that we are actually standing here and discussing and having so many different viewpoints on the sexualization of children or what it means to be an American. The books in schools, we found, contained information on how to give blowjobs, an aunt who gave sex parties for her niece while the kids held dildos in their hand
Okay, can we?
and explained.
Please,
Okay.
you got to keep it clean here a little
Well,
bit.
it is.
Okay.
There's books about rape with boys hiding in the closet, condoms on the floor, incest, sex slavery. These are all the things that we found in the schools.
I know.
And the talking points are, the kids need to know this because this is what life is about. No, this is not what life is about. But reading about this stuff, is this really going to prevent it from happening? Where is that statistic? It actually promotes it. This is not about librarians. The librarians do a good job. They are not nefarious. What it's about is publishers pushing this stuff because it makes money. It is trendy, and so authors write about it. Librarians don't have time to read every single book that they purchase. So it is not their fault that this stuff does seep through the cracks. It's not about Republican versus Democrat either. And what Amanda is asking for is just to investigate. We heard what's in the schools. What do we have in the libraries? What do the kids have access to, especially young children? It's not about book banning or taking away parents' rights. Why are they targeting young children with these sexualization books? And why are people advocating for it? I am for less government, and I am for oversight. And I am a taxpayer, so I have the right to ask questions. We are stepping into dangerous territory. There are age restrictions for children for driving, drinking, and entering sex shops. some think that this is being honest. Well, being honest with children is that there is biologically and scientifically only two genders. There seems to be a difference of opinion on this. Libraries are for history. If books err against the truth, history will be rewritten. And as some are advocating, and billions of dollars towards putting a new history for America and mankind in these books. The hate has to stop. The children are innocent ones, and they don't need to lose their
Thank you very
innocence.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well said. Yes, ma'am.
You know, I trust the librarians as well. I mean, but as good Republicans and as President Reagan, who I believe is the greatest president, one of the greatest presidents to ever live, stated to trust but verify. And that's what this is doing. This is verifying what we want to see put in place as a board. So that's all I have to say.
Commissioner Satcher?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I would say that for the most part and on the whole, I trust the parents. And when we looked at a presentation made by I believe our library staff, and I had quotes of it and read it, it was telling librarians how to not, it literally said in the description, it said, don't agree with them if they object to a book. Don't say you're sorry. And it said that. Now, maybe that was out of context. I didn't have the entire speech. But so I'm not trying to say anybody's horrible or anything like that, but I do think that we should be smart, and when every single person, I'm reluctant to go along with people that aren't even in favor of the overall goal. So I wish we hadn't changed our motion, but I'm okay with it as far as we did. But I mean, I wish we hadn't, but I will vote for it the way it is, to speak more clearly.
Are you finished, Commissioner Satcher?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. I'm next on the board. And I just want to say that, you know what, this is a very difficult topic. But the gentleman was right. This isn't about adults. This is about our children. This is about what they're seeing, what they're hearing, what they're being taught. And it's really, it's something that we have to look at and say, enough is enough. Let kids be kids. I don't think that's such a bad thing. I think it's pretty smart. But I guess that depends on how you want the kids to be. I'm in favor. No one on this board has mentioned today taking any books away. No one has mentioned, trying to change anything other than to come up with a plan that our children are not being subjected to sexual-oriented material. I would think any adult would want that to be the case. I mean, I'm older than, well, actually I'm not. I'm not the oldest in this room right now, and I see a lot of other people that are older than I am. I'm pretty sure. Shut up. He just doesn't change. It's my brother. But the bottom line is that, we do have a responsibility to our youth. So I'm going to vote for this motion. I am glad that Commissioner Ron and Commissioner Ballard did the amendment on it. I think it was a good move. But we do need to start looking at this. And I think our librarians that we have are great people. And I think they work very hard and they try to do the right thing. And I think that probably we need to look at ourselves and say, and I don't mean just this board, I mean everybody in this room. Why have we all not spoken up before and realized that we needed to stop what was happening? Why is it all of a sudden it's okay? I've got 4 children and 10 grandchildren. It's not okay. Anyway, we hear about banning books. You hear about the Bible today and burning books and all that. That's ridiculous. It was a waste of time in some way. That's not what this has been about. So I think it's been good conversation, and I hope that we can all come together and work on this and build what we need for our youth, which is not sexual-oriented materials. So,
The
Commissioner-
motion on the screen is expand current advisory board by 4 seats and increase duties. Am I to believe that is the motion, because that's what I'm reading? That's different than the motion that was
Totally
previously made.
different, yes.
All right, because the other one had consent forms and labels and everything else. This is specific, the motion on the floor is specific to an advisory board expansion.
If everyone would like to do it that way, we can do it that way and have separate votes on the others. It's fine, I'm fine either way. I'm already late for my, for my town hall and to pick up my kids, so either way.
I think that is the motion that's on the floor right now, Commissioner Cruz. Commissioner Ron?
I'll be real quick. Madam Chair, I'm not sure how to do this, but
Are you?
can we get, can Commissioner Ballard work with Mr. Washington and Ms. Parrott to come up with a task force or whatever, or are they just going to meet with the new committee and say, this is what we're going to do? Or I'm just trying to figure out the structure of, because I would like for Amanda to represent us on that committee. If
So
she's-
I'm
sure,
already
you're-
on that committee.
Yeah, she's already on.
Yeah,
it.
we got a lot of boards we sit on, so I can't follow what everybody else is on and look if I can follow what I'm
Madam
on.
Chair, I
But,
Yes, sir.
All right.
think the board should understand that the advisory board, if it's the one I think it is set up by ordinance
Right.
in the county code. So an ordinance has to be crafted and brought back to the board for this change to be made. The board is simply authorizing the staff in my office, I'll assign someone to work with the commissioner to put that together and bring it back to the board in a public hearing.
Does that need to be part of the motion?
No, it's covered. I mean, it's
Okay.
authorization for us to move forward with it.
Okay, I'm good, thank you.
Then, Commissioners, at this time, we're going to go ahead and vote on the motion. Please cast your votes now. All right, it is approved unanimously. Thank you, Commissioners.